Hey, you guys, and welcome to this episode of How to Watch a Movie as a Christian. I'm Riley.
I'm PJ.
And I'm Javan.
How to watch The Menu as a Christian. The Menu came out last year. Late last year?
Late last year, yeah.
Yeah, you saw it in theaters.
I did.
I streamed it last night.
And I watched it like 3 days ago. And it stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Ray Fiennes, Voldemort himself.
And the Beast guy, the blue X-Man boy.
Oh, I was wondering where that guy came from. Yeah.
He's the nerd.
He's the foodie who doesn't cook. So it's a, what would you say? It's not quite a horror, but it is definitely like eerie and bloody. And
Yeah, it's pretty horrific, the content within, but it's so satirical that it doesn't feel like a horror because it is like borderline funny.
Yes.
It's
But I would
comedy,
consider it a horror movie.
horror comedy thriller
Yeah.
satire.
Yes. And so,
Food.
you know, we this is a spoiler conversation. So the plot of the movie is that Anya Taylor-Joy gets somehow, we find out later, invited or brought into this high-class dining experience that costs $1,200 a head. And lo and behold, everyone's going to die tonight, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Spooky.
And so it pokes fun at high-class dining. Have you ever had a high-class dining experience?
I did when I got engaged.
Where was it?
I went to this place called Aqua.
And how much was it per head?
We paid $300 total for both of us.
Whoa.
But we had a gift card, and then we had someone give us money, too.
How much was the gift card for?
It's like $150.
Okay.
So
All
Corinne and I
Was it worth $300?
Dude, it was wild. It actually was.
Was it relatable to the movie?
Well, it didn't make me think of
Did you
Aqua.
die?
But like Aqua or Aqua type people.
Where's Corinne?
I was blown away. I walked in and there was like man unironically wearing a monocle.
No way. That's
Captain's
okay.
outfit.
Nice. That's nice.
It was like we're in high class society. There's a valet. Like you can't park. You go to the valet and they go, sir. And I was so startled. I was
Good
like,
day, sir.
here's my keys. Go take my car, I guess. And then I walked and then I got paid.
Have you ever had a high-class dining experience?
I've been at Din Tai Fung.
in Seattle.
Yeah. It's good.
I guess that's $30 for a plate of
dumplings. Yummy dumplings. Michelin
Dumplings.
star dumplings.
That is true. Those are good.
So good.
But a high-class dining is a different thing. I think the main thing about the high-class dining experience is that it's the flavor profiles, like layers, they really are. You're like, this is real.
Yeah.
There's nothing simple about it. That's the hard part, is that you can't just eat it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, here, let me explain it and let me walk you through it. And you're like,
It's almost like watching a movie in a way, but you're eating. It's like you're consuming
it's an experience.
some form of almost
It's an art.
entertainment.
Yeah.
Or performance.
There's a spectacle behind
Yeah.
the dish.
Except instead of sensing with your eyes or whatever, it's with your tongue.
I don't know I don't know the history of fine dining, especially modern fine dining, which this movie like makes fun of.
I will say this. Did you know this? It's based off of a local restaurant here.
In Seattle. Or in Northwest?
In Loomy Island.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah. It just
I've
closed
been
down.
there.
Yeah.
Is that what the one
been
you're
there.
talking about?
No, but
Oh.
I've been to this one.
Yeah.
I only had breakfast there.
It's
and it was
loosely based off of
amazing.
that. Yeah.
Their breakfast was incredible.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Did you know that?
I didn't
I forget
know
what it's
that.
called. It's like something. There's this huge controversy about it where it was like, oh, we source all our food locally, but they just got so busy and so popular that the chef had to go to Costco. It was like this huge scandal.
And someone saw him there and took a picture or
Yeah,
something.
something like that. Anyways, the restaurant's closed now because the chef was like stinky.
Oh my
He's a bad boy.
word.
That's crazy.
He is a bad boy. So the menu is a satire, which, how would you describe satire? What's the point of satire?
I mean, it's like taking something, like it's taking a reality and poking fun at it in a way, like this reality.
Usually funny.
Yeah, it's typically it's synonymous with comedy for sure. But in this reality, it is the fine dining experience and all the different sort of customer types who might be in attendance at one of these restaurants, and it's poking fun at each one of those like stereotypes.
Yeah, and the characters aren't aware that they're absurd and silly as well. I feel like that's part of satire as well.
And in some ways they are exaggerated.
Yeah.
Although in this movie it did feel real. Like in the sense that their behavior was very observably real. I've seen those people.
And it's sad that it feels like they should be caricatures or exaggerations of people, but they are just real types of people.
Yeah.
That's just a person that exists.
Here's a question then I thought would be funny to answer, which is, let's make it a two-parter so you can answer it one way or the other.
Okay.
One is, have you ever had dinner with people like this? And if so, which people? Oh. Like which table have you had dinner at? And the second one was, which people are you?
I've definitely had meals with people who obsess with making sure people know what they're eating by, taking the picture, posing or whatever. Yeah. And it feels so silly to me because I just naturally am not a picture taker. So I don't think to take pictures of my food. I just want to put it in my stomach or whatever. Yeah. And so it always, I wouldn't say annoys me, but it's silly to me. Like, just eat the food. I don't know.
You're saying like, how do you consume food? Do you do it through pictures and talking about it?
Are you here just to let people know that you're here?
A status thing.
Or are you here because you need to eat food?
And they even say, he even says, whatever you do not eat.
Yeah.
Right?
To the chef.
Yeah.
Taste.
Don't eat.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. The first thing that they introduced was all the oils, the breadless bread, and it's just oils, and homeboy's just going at these oils.
He's like, it's genius.
It's like, it's so funny, but it makes sense. Like, people would do that.
Did you relate to that dude though later when he forces him to cook? And
I think he's the most relatable for me.
Really?
If I'm going to be any character, because I feel like it doesn't just apply to food; it applies to any form of art.
Right.
And I'm the boy that's
you
like,
act like you're all about it, but you can't do it.
I can't do it. Yeah, I'm on Letterboxd like, man, this character had no motivation and the cinematography was so lame. You put me behind the camera, it's gonna be.
You become the old guy from SpongeBob.
Yeah, it's gonna be so bad. And I'm working like that's what I want to do is get better at that, and I am doing that.
Yeah.
But I can only cook eggs. I can't make the genius oil.
Yeah, totally.
Would you say then because we're kind of having a conversation then about what types of, I don't know, pride or arrogance. Because part of the movie is each table represents like a certain arrogance, and he says, you all will die tonight. Yeah. And so they're there to die, and that's sort of what satirical or even horror does, is it pinpoints some problem with humanity and then says, now die for it, Would that be more that dude, that kind of pathetic dude who's like he thinks that he's cool but he can't actually cook, or would it be more like the critics who are overly critical? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of everything. I think that would be me.
Really?
Yeah. I just, for whatever reason, will be at, I don't know, Dick's Burgers, and I think, oh, this fry could be a little bit more crispy or blah blah blah, but it's like I paid $7 for this piece of garbage meal, and I'm like criticizing it to a T for some reason.
I feel like what's interesting about so you have like the woman critic, right? But then her buddy pal guy friend that just says yes to everything that she's saying.
Yeah.
That's an interesting character that exists that I probably relate with a little bit more. Where I'm like just living my day. I'm not educated in the fine arts, so to speak. But then I'll watch some YouTube video of some critic going, hey, you see, this bone broth has separation. It's not emulsified. And then I'll be like, Yeah.
Yeah, because
like-
he had his own opinions.
Yeah.
And then would just
And then heard the
reverse it
yeah.
because of what she said.
Right, which is so funny.
Yeah.
That is so funny. That's a lot of people. They don't have it. That's me. When I watch like YouTube film critics and like I adopt their thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even mean to. I don't want to. I want to be original, but I just find myself parroting people and going, yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
But
Yeah. All right, Anthony Fantano, tell me what I feel about this music.
Totally. The music, even politics. That's a huge thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a lesser version of Ben Shapiro.
right.
You know.
I think for me, the guy I sadly related to was the failed actor.
Really? Wow.
Well, just in the sense of like,
you did not make it in show business.
that's why we're here. No, because his greatest fear is like he's insignificant and he doesn't matter. And he's saying, oh yeah, I met that guy. Or actually, we're friends. But it's like, that's not real. You made that up. And I don't make a habit of that, but I sense that desire to like play up my connections more than, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that the film does an amazing job of cluing you into that quick. It almost does it as well as, I almost thought of the film as almost like a murder mystery in its vibe, like Knives Out.
Sure.
Kind of like
It's got a Clue-esque. These archetypes showing up and stuck in one spot that they can't escape.
Yes.
And then people dying.
Yeah. I think that it's crazy how well this movie pigeonholes a character into just a thing that they've done.
Yeah.
But you still feel like they're relatable to you. How does it do that? Like, how does a film, because we talk about like more prestigious films, the characters are complex. They have motivations that kind of crisscross and they're changing. This film has none of that. So how do I still connect to characters if they're so one-dimensional?
I mean, there's a lot of relatability in the way they respond to things because, like we have mentioned, we do see ourselves in a lot of these characters, maybe not as exaggerated in our personalities, but the way they respond to things happening around them is the way that we would too, especially to finding out that everyone's going to die tonight, like that's going to happen. And everyone sort of, it's interesting because the way they respond is they sort of try to get away, but nobody really tries to get away.
Yeah.
Like they almost feel like they deserve to die, which, I mean, morbidly, I feel like we could fall into that same thing of like, maybe I do deserve to die. Maybe I am just a bad person.
And that is one of the themes of the show. Even the chef believes he deserves to die. Why?
Yeah.
Because he's obsessed with perfection and he has lost his love of cooking.
Yeah.
And so therefore, why go on? He says to everyone, you've all destroyed my art.
Yeah.
You are all responsible for the destruction of my art. I think is what he says before the final thing.
Now die as a s'more.
Yeah.
Those little chocolate hats.
So let's talk about Anya Taylor-Joy's character. She ends up being a, what would you say, like a prostitute or an escort?
An escort.
Yeah, like an escort for hire. Brought along by the kind of weaselly dude who's like a foodie, kind of a fake
Carrie
foodie.
or Terrence, something like that.
Something.
I don't know. Yeah.
He brings her in, and he knew the whole time that this was a death parade.
Yeah.
And he still brought her on. But she has this arc. So she does have a little bit of an arc. Let's talk about her. How is she kind of different, and how does the theme kind of set her apart?
Because she smokes.
She smokes.
She wears leather.
Yeah.
Boots.
True.
She's not like, she's red-haired.
She's not
the
like
other
those
girls.
other girls.
She's not like
She's
those other
different.
girls. Yeah, she likes, well, she's simple.
She's simple. You have the whole interaction with the chef and her, where he's like, you're not these people, you're more like us.
Yeah, right off the
That's
bat,
right.
he's
Yeah.
extremely intrigued with her because one, she's not supposed to be there. Every single person there was curated to be there for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
And the only reason Anya Taylor-Joy character, Margot, I think her name was.
That was her fake name.
Oh yeah, it's like Erin.
There's Erin
Erin
or
is
something.
her
That's
real
right.
name.
I'm gonna call her Margot anyway.
Yeah.
The only reason Margot is there is because Homeboy brings her along because his other date canceled on him. And so she just was brought along a week or so, whatever, prior they met. And now she's kind of this fish out of water. So we're sort of experiencing this movie through her eyes and through her lens of this is bizarre. Like, this is not a bread plate. There's no bread here.
And I think that she provides our eyes, but she also, when he says you're not supposed to be here, that's true thematically as well.
Yeah.
She doesn't have one of the faults that would lead to her deserving death, right? So therefore, we're clued into her and we're going, okay, what's different about her? And the difference is she still loves. She still has love. It's not, she's not driven by perfection. Now she is complicated and there's some horrible things in her past, but she hasn't, it's not led to her being like a empty shell or a douchebag, like those rich dudes that are all kind of high-fiving and stuff, or like those pathetic old married couple who've been there 11 times and don't even remember one dish,
Yeah.
So she's sort of got this thing, and it's symbolized in the cheeseburger.
Right.
She just wants a cheeseburger. So let's talk about the film, and kind of it uses satire, horror, eeriness, mystery to kind of convey things. It's very, I wouldn't call it agenda driven, but it very much is saying something. But let's talk about it from a Christian point of view. What kind of stood out to you about how the film kind of articulates its themes contrasted with the way of Christ?
Yeah, so one thing that stood out to me the most was the chef is kind of the embodiment of this obsession with perfection and the costs associated with that. So like with the chef, you see Anya Taylor-Joy like break into his bedroom, his secret office, and you see like all these pictures of his history and how he had a family, he had a kid, he had a wife. And then the next photo is him like opening this grand restaurant, but where's this kid and where's his wife? So he's
obviously lost his family.
He's
along the
lost
way.
a ton in pursuit of like obtaining the perfect dish. You even see that like with I forget the chef's name, but the guy that made The Mess. He's like this guy that's also obsessed with perfection and trying to achieve.
He'll never be great.
Yeah, he'll never reach that perfection. Or you have that line where the chef is like, I've made a career off of trying to satisfy people that can't be satisfied. He's like driven, he's literally driven psychotic and murderous over this obsession with perfection. And through that process, the love for his art and his craft has been lost. And he's wanting to
also
murder.
Symbolized in a cheeseburger, because there in his bedroom is a picture, of him happy, just flipping a burger.
Just flipping a burger. And it's that pressure of perfection that it's also a judgment force. So quite literally, all these customers have specific sins that they must be judged for. Perfection demands it in this weird, twisted way, where it's not unloving, it's cold. And just the idea of perfection, there's a lot that you can pull out of the gospel. And the difference between biblical, Yahweh's perfection and how that is different than the chef's version of perfection, There's a lot.
Yeah, and I think perfection is a crushing force. A lot of people relate to that.
Yeah.
I'll never be perfect. I'll never reach a standard. And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of cultures are built around that.
Yeah.
Achieving a standard, achieving a culture, kind of a prestigious place of honor in society. And so that's like you're constantly almost judged by that. What would be the difference? Because clearly in the scripture, God is perfect. Mm-hmm. And Jesus even says, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. What is it that allows a follower of Christ to know God is perfect and to look at him every day and yet not be judged by it and not be crushed by his perfection?
Totally. I was thinking about this morning on how the character of God, he is perfect. He has this judgment sense to him, for sure. Perfection demands that. But what he also has is he has love. He has perfect love. And that's something that the chef is fighting really hard to obtain in this weird, twisted way.
He's like giving it up. He's like, I lost my
something
love
that
for
he
what
had.
I do years ago, he says, in the office.
So let's just purge the system, so to speak. He's almost doing like Noah's Ark in a weird, twisted way. But what I found beautiful, with Anya Taylor-Joy, she's like, I would like a cheeseburger. And then all of a sudden this love for the craft comes back. And how with the character of Yahweh, it's both perfection and love. You have the pristine, like, oh my word, how can you have such a beautifully layered dish? And then you also have the cheeseburger. You have the perfection and you have the love contained in one meal. I don't know where this analogy's going, but that's beautiful. I like that.
That is really interesting.
God is the perfect cheeseburger.
He's a yummy cheeseburger.
When I read long ago that there's a contrast in Scripture between Greek notions of perfection and Hebrew notions of perfection, and they're very different. So when the Greeks were trying to be perfect, they would, there's like certain fitness things, there's philosophy in Greek culture, and there's this like standard, Aristotle, we're here, slaves are here, and there's this like notion of perfection, and we've inherited that idea of perfection in the West. Perfection is a standard that you cannot achieve, but you're striving to.
Yep.
Well, the Hebrew notion of perfection is different. It's actually alignment with purpose. So the perfect cheeseburger is not some standard. It's just doing what a cheeseburger ought to do. And so in the same way, a perfect human is not whole. He's not like, you're not expected to be God himself.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, like the way we often think. But to be perfect in the Hebrew sense is to be aligned with your created purpose, which is to worship God, love your neighbor, and everything. And so that's why the Hebrew scriptures can be jam-packed with these commands that are like, be holy as I am holy. In the Greek sense, you look at that and go, what a crushing standard. But in the Hebrew sense, it's like, no, that's what I'm designed to do.
Fascinating.
And so there's never in the Hebrew idea, there is never the misconception that if I don't measure up, I'll die. Because in that passage, Leviticus 19, and it's all through Leviticus, in Leviticus is the provision for imperfection. You're not perfect, here's a sacrifice.
Right.
You're not able to meet the standard, here's atonement. Here's forgiveness. So it's like you literally have the standard mixed with the love.
The love.
Right in the same passage.
And you see that expressed in the menu as well. The chef's perfection is met when the cheeseburger is made.
Yeah.
That's when he's lined
That's his
up with purpose.
And maybe it's not as tasty profile, but that's not the point of a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool. It's a cool
That
thought.
was really cool. Wow.
Love that. Well, this has been How to Watch the Menu as a Christian. We are Pacific Parable, and we will see you at church.
Thank you.